Welcome to Matters Financial, Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Macro thoughts, well, the big issue was Janet Yellen yesterday, and I'll just take one paragraph out of what she said. Given the risks to the outlook, I consider it appropriate for the committee to proceed cautiously in adjusting policy. This caution is especially warranted because with the federal funds rate so low, and this is the interesting part, the FOMC's ability to use conventional monetary policy to respond to economic disturbances is asymmetric. I love that word. Obviously, she's discovered it as well. If economic conditions were to strengthen considerably more than currently expected, the FOMC could readily raise its target range for the federal funds rate to stabilize the economy. By contrast, if the expansion was to falter or if inflation was to remain stubbornly low, the FOMC would be able to provide only a modest degree of additional stimulus by cutting the federal funds rate back to near zero. The key sentence, the FOMC's ability to use conventional monetary policy to respond to economic disturbances is asymmetric. And I concluded by saying Janet Yellen has totally bailed. And essentially it's triggered a big risk-on rally. We'll get to that in a moment. My hope, thoughts, and I've been reading a lot. I really enjoyed those short stories, by the way. Great selection and a lot of sort of themes that went through across the continent, which is unusual given 54 countries and all of that. But after that, I started reading a book called The Vivisector by Patrick White, an Australian writer, very famous. I just never got round to reading him. There's nothing so inhuman as a human being. That's from The Vivisector. If truth is not acceptable, it becomes the imagination of others. Very good book, worth reading. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, The Upright Revolution, or Why Humans Walk Upright, is the single most translated short story in the history of African writing. The moment we lost our languages was also the moment we lost our bodies, our gold, diamonds, copper, coffee, tea. The moment we accepted, or being made to accept, that we could not do things with our languages was the moment we accepted that not make things with our vast resources, said the novelist and the playwright. My favorite book of his is called Dreams in a Time of War. And it starts like this, and I've read it before. Years later, when I read T.S. Eliot's line that April was the cruellest month, I would recall what happened to me one April day in 1954 in Chile, Limuru. Chile. It's very chilly. The prime estate of what in 1902 another Eliot, Sir Charles Eliot, then governor of colonial Kenya, had set aside as white highlands. The day came back to me, the now of it vividly. And of course, that's a play on The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. April is the cruellest month, reading lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. My nerves are bad tonight. Yes, bad. Stay with me. Speak to me. Why do you never speak? Speak. What are you thinking of? What? Thinking what? I never know what you are thinking. Think. I think we are in Rat's Alley, where the dead men lost their bones. What is that noise? The wind under the door. What is that noise now? What is the wind doing? Nothing. Again, nothing. Great poet, isn't he, T.S. Eliot? Political reflections. Suu Kyi aide sworn in as Myanmar president in historic power shift. That is a big development, but I always find her sort of circumspection around the Rohingya issue, a little bit of a stain on her character. President Obama will hold informal talks, not formal ones, with Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan in Washington this week, says the White House. Erdogan likes to play a game of escalation, and you will recall his chemical weapons tripwire in Syria, which President Obama neatly managed to sidestep. Turkey demands the deletion of a German video mocking Erdogan. Complaints from Turkey center on a 2-minute satirical song called Erdoğan, Erdogan. The Turkish government has reportedly ordered the deletion from the internet of a German satirical video that pokes fun at President Erdogan and condemns his human rights record. We demanded that the program be deleted, the Turkish diplomat told AFP, on condition of anonymity. My piece over the weekend was all about terrorism, and I was saying how countries pay a heavy price for less costly terror attack. I was essentially saying it doesn't cost very much to launch these terror attacks, therefore the return on the investment was very high. And then I was saying that the reaction by governments is extremely expensive, multiple of what the terrorists are spending. And I was talking about tail risks, and saying in a world of 7 billion, the tail risk, the number of people prepared to do these sort of acts, if it's 0.5%, it's 3.5 million people. It's quite a lot. And these are the people who are prepared to go over the edge. There is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over, said Hunter S. Thompson. And then I made one final observation regarding Kenya, and I said, Westgate, Garissa meant we were in the crosshairs, but now terror is striking in the heart of Europe. Terror is surfing the new flat world. There has been diffusion. This is counterintuitively positive for Kenya, I said. Terrorists, Muslims, needle, haystack was a tweet from Ian Bremer, plays to my question about the tail. The arrival of the asymmetric threat on the streets of Paris was deeply unsettling and will surely keep Europe off balance and presages a new normal. I wrote that in January 2015. Currency markets, well, it's all happening here, let me tell you. Euro dollar 113.25. Dollar index below 95. Japanese yen 112.10. Swissy. When I looked before, 0.9662, but I'm sure it's stronger. The pound, 144.35. The Aussie, 0.7686, which is a 8.5-month peak. That's a bullish breaker. India rupee, 66.405. South Korean won, 1153.10. Rial, 363.59. Egyptian pound, 887.99. And the rand is a sell, if you can sell it at 15. Then we put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, and I put in brackets Yellen, the pussycat refers. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 3-month chart of that, 113.28 right now, 114.50 is the key area. Everyone is freaking out. Sandu, whose firm has loaned close to £1 billion to developers, said in an interview there's been nervousness for a while in the super prime market, and there's also now nervousness in the prime market. That's the United Kingdom. Commodity markets, gold 1242 needs to regain 1250. Crude oil up sharply at $39.30. Put up a 1-year chart. I think it will fall away, notwithstanding the fact that the dollar is going to be sold off for a few sessions. Emerging markets, crude oil I think looks very poor actually now again. AP investigation, China launders cash of foreign criminals, scam artists, drug cartels, gangs from around the world have found a new haven for laundering money, China. The country's well-developed underground financial networks have caught the attention of foreign criminals who are using China to clean their dirty money and pump it back into the global system, largely beyond the reach of Western law enforcement. Interesting article on Yahoo. Angola has sentenced a rapper and his book club to prison. Activist Angolan rapper Luaty, Beirao and 16 other dissidents have been sentenced to prison for planning to overthrow President Dos Santos at a book club meeting. Beirao and the group were arrested in late June after participating in a book club discussion on Gene Sharp's 1993 book on non-violent resistance from dictatorship to democracy, a conceptual framework for liberation. I concluded by saying this kind of egregious behaviour can become the straw that broke the camel's back. Put up a photograph of Luaty Beirao, who was given a 5.5-year sentence. Amnesty said the activists had been sentenced by a kangaroo court and were prisoners of conscience. EU takes aim where it hurts. Burundi, peacekeeper funding. Bujubura's 5,400 strong contingent in Somalia's Amazon earns the state roughly $13 million a year, and its soldiers a combined $52 million. Maybe the Achilles heel of a government that wants to keep its fractious army happy with the extra pay its troops earn from peacekeeping. And that's always a bad situation when you can't pay your soldiers. A recipe for disaster. For each East African soldier sent to Somalia, the contributing government receives $1,000 a month for wages and logistics paid for from a pot funded by the EU. In Burundi's case, the government keeps $200 a month and soldiers receive $800 a month, a handsome bonus on top of their much lower regular pay. South African all shares up 2.16% this year. Dollar rand, I can put up a 6-month chart. I haven't checked where it is lately because we've got a big move. But try and sell it near 15 or even through it if you get lucky. Claimed photo of hijacker Saif LD Mustafa wearing explosives belt with smiling passenger on board Egypt Air jet. You couldn't have made it up if you tried. The pound dropped 10.036 per dollar on Tuesday. This is in Cairo, down 3.5% from a week earlier, and the weakest level yet on the black market. Egypt EGX 30 is rallying on the devaluation, up 8.01% this year, up 23.12% in March alone when it entered a bull market. Paul Wallace and Business Bloomberg has written about Nigeria's promise turning to peril as investors head for the exits. The promise of Africa's biggest economy has turned to peril. Companies drawn to Nigeria by the prospect of a population bigger than Germany and Turkey's combined are retreating. Those staying have publicly criticized the president, a military strongman in the 1980s, who came back to power via an election last year, and foreign investors are pulling their money out. Corporate tribulations began with a slide in oil prices, accelerated after the imposition of capital controls, also entangled in a global emerging market slump. In propping up the naira in a futile bid to contain inflation, officials have jacked up pressure on an economy running out of cash, deepening a black market in currency trading and causing shortages of imported goods from fuel to milk. US officials say that they will press their Nigerian counterparts to change tack during talks in Washington this week. Our clients, Fortune 500, other multinationals, are all quite concerned by the state Nigeria finds itself in. Sentiment is worse and there's a lot of anxiety. True Words, a South African clothing retailer, last month gave up, closed its 2 outlets in Nigeria. Willing to tolerate dilapidated infrastructure, complicated red tape and expensive rent, the company said the import and foreign exchange restrictions caused it to throw in the towel. We're happy to lose money for a few years while we develop the business and open new stores. The straw that broke the camel's back was not being able to get stock into Nigeria. You can't have a clothes shop with no clothes. With all the other things, it just wasn't worth it. It was impossible to do business. In dollar terms, the economy in 2019 will still be 17% smaller than its 2014 peak of $542 billion. Nigeria had the potential to grow 7.1% annually. This is what McKinsey said 2 years ago. They'll be at 0 this year. As Nigeria lags, other countries in sub-Saharan Africa have gotten more appealing. Nigeria fell from first to fourth behind Ivory Coast, Kenya and Tanzania in a ranking of business prospects by Nielsen Holdings. And I concluded by saying, there are risks in Africa, particularly what I would call policy-making catastrophic risk, which is what this is. In February I wrote, I find it just extraordinary that such a brilliant President, Muhammad Buhari, would risk it all on a bet on a single number in a game of roulette. There's the odds. I've got a photograph of him, the stock market, the all shares down 10.81% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange is down 3.98% year to date. Mail and Guardian had a fabulous piece, Photos, Life in Kinshasa, one of Africa's fastest growing and most unforgiving cities, saying every year 390,000 people pour into Kinshasa to escape war and poverty, but also to study or to follow a dream. And there's some lovely photographs of Kinshasa. Let's move on to Kenya, where we've had a bunch of results. Let's start off with Kenya Re, which reported full year profit after tax increased 13.295%. Gross premiums up 12.88%. Investment income up 17.331%. What's interesting about that is most insurance companies suffered mark-to-market losses. So I don't know what they've done, whether they sold some assets. And then they also had a fair value gains on revaluation of investment properties. Profit before tax up 15.164%, profit after tax up 13.295%, earnings per share up 13.839%, increased the dividend 7.143%. It trades on a PE of 3.892, hence is very cheap. They said we've set up a subsidiary in Zambia to operate as a regional hub to southern African markets such as Botswana. They say their investment portfolio grew to 26.86 billion from 25.181 billion in December 2014. It remains seriously inexpensive on a PE basis, seems to have navigated the mark-to-market imbroglio better than others. I think it's a buy at a price of 19.85. National Bank have issued a full year's profits warning, saying two factors. NPLs increased towards the end of 2015, which led to a sharp increase in the level of the impairment charge. The bank has identified the NPLs and has taken a series of steps to manage recovery of said position. The projected sale of one key low-yielding asset approved by the board was not completed in the year, thereby reducing the projected income from the same. They've sent their CEO, Munir Ahmed, on forced leave. He said, "I don't want to speculate on what's behind the board's decision. I totally disagree with the decision." And then shares in National Bank fell as much as 9.3% yesterday to an 11-year low before recouping some of those losses to close at 14.45. If you didn't see Munir Ahmed, who was a guest of mine at Might Speak, do watch it. Have a look at the interview I did with him, which also. National Bank share price is down 8.25% year to date. Liberty Life Kenya reported full year earnings. Profit after tax fell 35.939%. Gross earned premium revenue up 16.37%. Profit before tax down 29.175%. Earnings per share down 35.981%. Dividend, no dividend. They said we maintained a consistent growth in revenues and net assets for the year, saying fundamental organic business was okay. Both long-term, short-term lines of business in Kenya and Tanzania registered positive growth in core insurance earnings. Listen to this. This year's performance was delivered against the backdrop of an increasingly challenging operating environment characterized by intense competition from traditional and non-traditional players. Value of investments in both listed equities and bonds across the East African market experienced a significant decline. It was a difficult year from a mark-to-market basis. This is, however, a well-managed franchise. I would buy it on dips. Price-earnings ratio is 11.67. East African Cables reported a full-year loss after tax of 741 million shillings, Revenue down 26.954%, reporting a loss after tax 741.2 million versus a profit the previous time of 341.14 million. EPS negative 2 shillings and 21 cents. Overall decline in performance was attributable to interruptions in our production processes as we concluded process flow realignment in our refurbished Kitui Road plant, foreign exchange losses due to the sharp depreciation of regional currencies against the dollar, decline in London metal exchange prices by 20% within the year, low demand in our export markets due to political environment prevailing within the region, impairment of receivables, though collection efforts are in place to recover those debts. The group found it prudent to carry a provision on these receivables. The group opened the year with a strong order book. These were very soft earnings, and they're a big piece of Trans-Century, which closed at a fresh all-time low at minus 36.96% year to date. According to a report in The Nation, they've been given 6 months to clear debt. This is referring to $18 million worth of debt, which somehow they've managed to offer a 50% haircut on, and they've been given an extended period. But it's very difficult to see how shareholders are going to survive this dilution. Carbacid reported first half earnings per share up 8.046%, turnover up 14%, revaluation of equity investments they took a hit because of that. Kenya Orchards reports full year profit before tax up 194.19%, but the price earnings ratio is still 293.93. I think this is more a play on the value of the land, and I'm going to have to look into that. Kenya shilling 101.33, probably going to break 101 today if we continue like this against the dollar on the international markets. Nairobi All Share up 0.94% year to date. NSE 20, which crossed 4,000 recently, back below it, minus 1.12% so far this year. Kennel Co-Bill rallied to a fresh 2016 high. That's up 19.27% this year. Standard Chartered ran up to a fresh 2016 high. That's up 15.89% so far this year. NSE itself up 11.11% this year and at a 2016 high, and now trading limit up this morning as well. I wrote this after I cited the earnings. I said it's going higher in 2016, and that prediction is based on an increased smorgasbord of product, strong institutional demand for exchange equity, and I said the bonus and dividend hike will keep it humming along. I&M Holdings rallied 3%, closing at a 2016 high of 103, highest volume session of the year. Of course, we had Standard Group report earnings yesterday. Print down 11%. And, if you look the world over, the trajectory of print is downwards. You look through the results we've seen recently, and from companies that are not listed, print is extremely soft. And then ARM, as I told you, issued a cautionary announcement, but there again, shareholders are looking at big dilution. Once again, thanks for stopping by.